Setting up the business location, establishing the interactive space. When setting up your business location, it's very important because that specifies what government regulations are going to be necessary to follow. And oftentimes, if we set up in one state, it's going to be very different. The rules and regulations are going to be very different than another state. So setting up the business location is really important on deciding how your business is going to interact with your customers. So setting up your business location, before determining what permits and licenses are needed for your business, it's important to decide the type of business you're going to be in, the industry, because often different types of industries are regulated in different ways by different agencies, by different parts of the government. And as we've said before, even industry associations might be self-regulating. Other important factors are where the business will be based and where the business will interact with customers. Those things are all important. And finally, what type of business organization entity it will be. Is it a corporation? Is it a limited liability company? Is it a sole proprietorship? The type of business organization will also affect the rules and regulations that the business will have to follow. As part of your planning process, a distribution strategy is an important factor to consider on where to establish a business and how it will interact with customers. Your distribution strategy is up to you. You get to decide where your business is going to be set up. You get to decide how you're going to interact with customers. A distribution strategy should answer the two questions: where are my customers and where should I be? In a traditional distribution strategy, you would have the producer, and this is often the business that produces the product or service that the customer on the right would order. In a traditional distribution strategy, the producer might make something. They might hire a broker that would be an agent that would help the business connect with wholesalers and retailers in order to get the customer to be able to purchase the product. So you would have a broker, maybe a wholesaler that would distribute it to local retailers, and the local retailers would offer the product or service where customers would purchase it. So the more people that or organizations that interact in this distribution chain, the more you're going to have to provide them with part of the revenues that the customer would pay for that product or service. It's often you are paying a retailer a portion of the proceeds of the final revenue that the customer would pay, because the retailer's job is to get the product in front of the customers, maybe to advertise to customers about the different types of products, and to hire sales staff or provide instruction on what the use of that product is. So you're paying them to, maybe not directly, but you're giving up part of your share of the customer revenues in order for this part or this link in the supplier chain, the distribution strategy, to provide that product or service to the customer. Over time, producers are moving closer to the customer. This happens by removing links in the distribution chain. So you might find that a broker is not necessary because a business can use the internet to look up local wholesalers or nationwide wholesalers and contact them. So we don't need a broker anymore. You might be able to ship your product straight to a retailer like Amazon rather than having to go through a wholesaler now. So Amazon acts like a wholesaler and retailer, so it's a one-stop shop for producers that want to reach their customer by putting it in a retail shop, but they don't want to deal with all the wholesale distributors. And finally, a producer can now sell direct to the customer. We see this distribution chain going from heavily linked with a broker, wholesaler, and retailer to finally the customer, and going down where the producer is selling directly to the customer. This would be, an example would be the beer industry. So today you can often go straight to a brewery and purchase beer that the brewery made on site, And so the producer is selling the product that it made directly to the customer. Where previously, you might have to, if you were the customer, you would have a limited supply of beer manufacturers, and the only place you could get it was in a grocery store or a restaurant being sold there, and it would go through a retailer, a wholesaler, and broker and producer. There would be many different organizations or businesses integrated in this distribution chain just to get that customer the beer that they wanted, but today they can get it straight from the source. So in a way, this has made it a benefit to the customer, and it's also benefited the producer in many ways, because the money that the customer pays goes straight to the producer. They can make a lot more money. So another example would be entertainment. So if you like to watch movies, that has dramatically changed over the last 100+ years. In 1902, when movies were first getting started, they had to go straight to the cinema in order to watch a movie. So they would go and they would go to a theater to watch the movie. They couldn't watch the movie at home, right? In 1970s, they started getting the movies copied to VHS or Betamax tapes, where you could go to a store such as Blockbuster, rent the tapes or buy the tapes, and you could play them in your own home. So this is a unique experience. You don't have to go to the movie theater anymore. You did have to go to a specific retailer, a video rental store, to get it, and you also had to have the equipment to play it in your own home. So there were a couple things that you had to do in order to enjoy that entertainment, but the place that you enjoy that entertainment is now different. In 1999, Netflix arrived, and they started shipping the movie in DVDs through the mail. They would send you in an envelope a DVD with your favorite movie. You could watch it at home, and thus this stopped you having to go to a retailer. You were going almost straight to the producer, but Netflix would be the business that would be in between the producer that made the movies. They would allow Netflix to distribute copies of the movies straight to the customer, right? Redbox is very similar, but what is interesting is that Netflix was in 1999. They were shipping it straight to the customer, whereas Redbox, customers would still have to go to a location, but the location wasn't like a Blockbuster or a specific rental site. They could go to a mutually accessible location, such as a gas station. So this is probably someplace that a customer was already going to go anyway to get gas, or they could go to a grocery store where they were already going to get groceries, and they would have a vending machine where they could rent a DVD movie there. So it made it more convenient, and also customers wouldn't have to wait a couple days to get the video by mail. So finally, we enjoy movies direct. Starting in around 2006, people could start watching movies by downloading them at home, and they could watch them at their convenience. So it's made it very, very convenient. And there are a number of producers such as Disney and Netflix that make their own movies, and they provide it straight to the customer. So now you're experiencing movies and the product being the movie. You could experience it straight in your home. So it's made very easy for the customers, and they're enjoying that direct connection. Whereas Netflix and Amazon and Disney that are now producing this content can make more money because they've broken up the distribution chain and they're able to sell it direct to the customer. And I joke, now people can become zombies because they're watching anything that they want at any time of the day. They don't have to wait, right? A little joke. So for the entertainment industry, the new distribution strategy makes it easier for the publisher to sell direct to the consumer. So think on your own, What other industries have been disrupted by new distribution strategy? We offered two examples, the beverage or beer industry and the entertainment industry. I'm sure if you thought about any industry out there, you could identify some disruption that has happened when the traditional distribution chain has been disrupted. So one of the things that you want to consider when setting up your business is, what is your distribution strategy? In the new environment where producers are selling directly to the customer, where are you going to set your business up? There is still a need for retail business. So if you do want to set up a retail shop, that means people are going to enter your space in a physical location and enter your store. There are some critical factors that you want to consider. One is customer traffic. People might be walking by and want to shop. So are there enough people? Are people able to park? Are they able to take a trolley or bus or, cruise line to your location and get out and start walking around and being able to access your store? And another thing you want to consider is the competition. How many other businesses nearby are selling something similar that are competing for the customer's business in your market? So the critical factors to consider when setting up your business are the space that you get and the cost that you have to pay up to get that retail space. And what are the manufacturing and home-based limitations for the type of business that you can set up? Is if you have a non-retail business, that means you're operating out of your home, right? So when you think about offering a non-retail business, like for example, you're staying at home and you're starting a website, or if you're working in your garage, right? Those factors come into play. You might not need that much space. So why are you paying for a space for a retail business when you don't need it? You can work at home, and if you don't need the space, you can save a lot of money. So the questions that you want to ask are, what things can you manufacture in your home, and what things are available for you to do if you run your business out of your home? So this is definitely a different consideration with the rules and regulations. What are the permits and licensing and regulations, and how are they different for retail businesses versus non-retail businesses? So one of the things you want to think about are the types of places that you can get. So whether you're a retail or non-retail business, you can work out of your home office. You could rent a shared space, such as a co-op or co-worker space, where many people of a similar type of business pay a little bit of money and they might share an office building, right? And you might get your own office, or you might even get your own desk in a co-working space where you rent out, and it's not the cost of renting it all out yourself. You share that space with other people of a similar business, but they might not be in your business. Two ways to get the space is you could lease the space, you can rent it, or you could purchase the space. So if we consider your home office, what do you think the percentage of U.S. businesses are home-based, run out of their home? Is it 10%, 25%, 50%, or 75%? What is the percentage of U.S. businesses that are home-based? If you guessed 50%, you're right. About 51.6% of all businesses are home-based, which is amazing to understand that this many businesses exist that are run out of their home. Some more information about home-based businesses is about 7% of these have more than $250,000 in annual receipts or sales. So about 7% are doing a pretty good amount of business. About 57% of these earn less than $25,000, so a large majority of them are small businesses. Oftentimes they're called side hustle businesses or cottage businesses, where they're not really enough to be a livable wage, but you might make a little bit of extra money. About 2/3 of them, 63% of these, were non-employer businesses. So most home-based businesses don't have any employees other than the owner. Another interesting stat is that about 30% of them started with less than $5,000. So most home businesses can start with very little money. So what are some businesses that could be good to run out of an office, out of your home office for less than $5,000? Could you come up with one? Take a minute to think about what type of business can you run out of your home if you had less than $5,000. Often this is a good way to start up your business with very little money. Another question you're going to have to ask if you're running out of your home is what types of businesses can't you run out of your home? And what are the rules for setting up a home-based business? San Diego, California is one to consider. So one of the things that you want to look at is the zoning in your local area. So if you're setting up your business in San Diego and you're running it out of your home, you would want to go down to the San Diego offices and you would want to find the zoning office and you would ask the question, what can I and what can't I run out of my home office? What businesses can I run and what I can't? And they often have a list, and the zoning department would specify what you can and can't do. Ooh, that page is not there. So we'll have to find that. But if you typed in San Diego zoning home office, you'll find it. And I think I updated it here, so let's go. So from the last time I looked in San Diego, this is just an example. It may not be current because it looks like they've updated it. And this is an example. They update it all the time. So it's up to you to be current. What was there a month or two ago is not there today. So the last time I checked, these are some of the rules for a home-based business. It has to be accessory use to residential use. That means, what does that mean? You can't rent a house or an apartment just to run a business out of it. You have to live there first, and then the business is something you do secondarily. Okay? So the business can't be the primary use of that space. Okay? You have to live there first and then run a business out of it secondarily. The city of San Diego does not want factories, so they want handmade items only by the owners. So typically I would consider that, if I were asked my interpretation of this, I would say, like, if you make purses out of your home and you sell them on Etsy or some other website, you can make them yourself, but when you start hiring employees to make similar purses, then you've created a factory situation where you have employees that are manufacturing products. So another issue that's big is parking. You can't create more parking issues in your neighborhood. So residential neighborhoods are not designed to be giant parking lots for your business. So your business, home-based business, can't be creating more parking issues. Materials for the business must be stored in an enclosed structure. You can't just leave it outside. And materials that you do store indoors must be less than 1,000 cubic feet, which is roughly a 10 by 10 by 10 foot room. So about the size of one bedroom. Typically you can't have signs in front of your business if it's a residence, and the business owner must be the resident. So you're not encouraged to start your business in somebody else's house and rent a space from them. You should be the resident of that property. And generally they want sales, service, and meetings to be taken off premises, but San Diego has relaxed some of the rules, and the last time we checked, you could have one employee, one partner, one customer at a time in the home office and in certain hours. Again, I encourage you to look at the City of San Diego. I think this link here does show some of the rules and regulations, and they can, oh, here we go. So I did pull this on the slides where you can see how to obtain a neighborhood use permit for home occupation. So this describes the process. So again, this might not be the most current, so you may have to go down to the city, but it does give you a good idea of the types of work that you can and can't do. So what are some essentials for the office? Some of the inexpensive office solutions to run your home office are, you can use Google, you can use Skype, you can use smartphones to do much of the work that used to be done in a regular office for a very low cost. So for example, Google offers free email, a free phone number. I don't know if it's free actually. Very low cost phone. You could store documents on a cloud hard drive. You can chat. They do low cost domain hosting and other business services. So Google does offer a lot of business services. Skype, for example, offers free video conferencing, or Zoom. Those are great low cost services you can do. Smartphones, most of the smartphones that we have these days can do almost everything for a monthly fee. There are thousands of apps you can get on your phone for little or no cost. That could specialize in your industry. You can run your whole business off of your smartphone. Okay. So there is a number of other issues in the slides, and I'm not going to go into these details, but take a look at the links on the slides and go through them and read them. But those are not necessarily going to be applicable for our business, for our class. Next up is registering the business. So then once you've decided on your distribution strategy and where you're going to set your business up, the next question is, how are you going to register it? So take the first step and understand the distribution strategy and try to imagine where you might set up your business. Are you going to run it out of your home? Are you going to rent a retail space? What's the business structure going to be set up? And once that question is answered, or at least once you have an idea, then you can do some research into registering the business.